That's a very good question. I think there's a race to embrace connectivity generally. There are many opportunities that it brings, not least the demand chain, so that manufacturers are more aware of what the demand for their products is going to be. It enables increased globalization because of the whole connectivity issue. It also enables people to perhaps deliver services that they weren't able to deliver previously because of the whole issue of connectivity. So great opportunities. We're also hearing a lot about machine to machine, the Internet of Things. They're all different forms of connectivity. And I think one of the very common issues between them is data. And we're also hearing a lot about big data. And you can see that the ability to connect and use big data is of huge value to business in the ways that I've just explained. But there are legal issues, and data is never without legal issues, as again, we see in the press all of the time. Cybersecurity risks are a big one that we see. But I think if we just focus on different sorts of data, we see across the piece, whatever the sort of data is, a number of issues, and then some specific issues depending on the data. So first of all, whatever the data, we need to identify who owns that data. Connectivity brings the ability to share, but we need to actually establish who owns it in the first place, who actually is entitled to exploit it, who can say who can use it. Then we move on to, well, if we're going to share it, what terms do we share it on? What are the purposes for which everybody can use it? What about keeping it confidential? Again, this would be particularly seen where it's business information, confidential information that needs to be kept secret. What are the terms on which we're going to do that? For a commercial secret, if it's disclosed, its value is pretty much gone immediately, so the confidentiality terms are really important. But if it's personal data, we have a whole layer of additional regulation that comes in. So, for example, if you've got employees who are wearing connected devices, again, quite a lot of personal data may be collected. We get into the realms of consents around that data. Are we entitled to use it? Is there some other justification for using it? Then again, the whole issue of sharing it, using it for particular purposes, all of that needs to be established. And then coming back to where I started, the whole issue of security. We've got to be certain that that data is going to be secure. And then you need to build around all of those issues a contractual matrix that ensures that you've got the right permissions, you've got the rights protected, you've got the right confidentiality obligations. So there are a whole host of issues, all of which shouldn't be seen as barriers, but they should be seen as enablers so that you can actually use that data in that way. And then apart from the data side, there's the whole issue of liability. So our connected cars, I think the ideal example of connectivity, and now we're seeing situations where there's a computer in your car that can collect your data, could potentially share that data with an insurer, could potentially decide how you're going to park between two cars. But what if it gets it wrong? The data is in some way flawed, it doesn't have the integrity that is required. I mean, that could be the same within the supply chain. What if the demand cycle is incorrectly predicted? What happens to the losses that arise from that? So in your car, is it going to be your OEM that's responsible for that system that has gone wrong, the data has been incorrectly read, and then the actions have been taken based on that? What about the individual that has actually put the data in? They've put it in the wrong way. And then in the supply chain, who's fed that data in? Where did it go wrong? What were the systems that caused it to go wrong? We have to look at the liability issues and again the contractual issues to make sure that those are identified and then properly dealt with.